commentary, entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Israel has a right to defend itself against rocket and tunnel attacks from Hamas. And as a result of its operations, Israel has already done significant damage to Hamas's terrorist infrastructure in Gaza. I've also said, however, that we have serious concerns about the rising number of Palestinian civilian deaths and the loss of Israeli lives. And that is why it now has to be our focus and the focus of the international community to bring about a ceasefire that ends the fighting and that can stop the deaths of innocent civilians, both in Gaza and in Israel.
All right, folks, welcome to the Malzberg panel. Joining us to talk about what you just heard and more is retired Major General in the U.S. Army and founder of Stand Up America, Paul Vallely, and LIGNET Chief Analyst Fred Fleitz. Gentlemen, Obama says basically Israel's caused enough damage to Hamas and now it's time to stop. What do you say, General?
Well, it's actually the Israelis' decision when to stop, and they're not going to until they penetrate the center of Gaza and Gaza City. So they're going to make the call. They're not going to listen to the administration anymore, or to Kerry or Obama, what they need to do.
And Fred?
Yeah, I agree with General Vallely. What we have here is that the Israelis made a very difficult decision to address pretty significant security challenges from these rockets, some of which are from Iran and Syria. But I also think we're seeing the U.S. administration, which sort of underestimated what was going to happen when Israel went into Gaza. I mean, most of the analysts who looked at this realized there were going to be a lot of civilian casualties. So for the President and Secretary Kerry to suddenly be shocked that war is messy, I think it's sort of par for the course. But I mean, I agree with the General. Israel will continue to push this until it achieves its objectives.
Now, yesterday, Fred, we heard John Kerry. I played this for Peter King just a moment ago. He didn't know his mic was on. He didn't know that they were recording him or whatever, so they played it back on Fox News Sunday, where he mocked the pinpoint operation of Israel by saying some pinpoint operation. He said it twice, and he said, we got to get over there. This is getting out of hand. And then when he comes on camera and he's asked about it, he just tears Hamas apart. But we heard what he thinks and what he says when he thinks he's not being watched and listened to. So that was a big giveaway, although it's not a surprise. Nonetheless, it was revealing.
Well, I mean, I think it's par for the course. We've consistently seen statements by this president and by Secretary Kerry that have given Hamas a free pass and been very hard on Israel. Yes, Kerry came back yesterday and he was tough on Hamas. But the sarcastic comments about the pinprick strike goes to what I said earlier. This administration really didn't understand that there would be a substantial number of casualties after Israel went into Gaza.
Yeah, and General, we're running a video now of proof from the IDF that shows rockets being fired from the roof or a balcony of obviously a dwelling place, so where people are living, an apartment or a house. And Israel then has to take care of business. So this is why the casualties are what they are. But one thing that interests me, and maybe you could comment on both Kerry's remarks and that we had talked about, and also these. At the end of that segment with Chris Wallace, he said that Hamas needs to agree to a ceasefire. And then as the president has agreed, we will address all of their concerns. So in other words, if Hamas agrees to a ceasefire, what, Obama and Kerry, they're going to start listening to Hamas's overall concerns about quote-unquote occupation? I mean, this is sick.
Well, it is sick, and it's meaningless and very naive, again, of this inept national security team we have. But what's interesting, Fred and Steve, is the new coalition of interlocutors over there, where you have Saudi Arabia, you have Kuwait, you have Egypt now taking the forefront against a coalition of Turkey and Qatar who are supporting Hamas. So now you're seeing Arab states moving more aggressively to solve those problems over there, because they know that the Obama administration completely is neutralized and not a player anymore. And so we have to look at those Arab nations now to be able to go in and solve some of the problems as far as any kind of a ceasefire or peace arrangement. But Hamas is not committed to peace. And so you're not going to see it until...
Are you still there, General? I think we might have lost the last few words there of the General. So, Fred, let me pick up a little bit on that. What will we see here? I mean, Israel reportedly has lost 7 more soldiers today. They're getting it done tunnel by tunnel, I guess. The false reports yesterday of the kidnapped Israeli soldier, thank God, were false reports. But this is what bothers me as a layman, and you're the expert. So explain to me, doesn't Hamas have a chance to just sit back and wait for Israel's tanks to roll in and them to get to the tunnels, since it's been, telegraphed where they are, when they're coming, what they're going to do? I mean, isn't it a big disadvantage for Israel the way this is played out?
It's a significant disadvantage, and Israel's concerned that they'll be forced into a ceasefire agreement, a truce that is, similar to November 2012 when the fighting stopped, but Hamas did not give up its rockets. Now, Hamas has even more rockets now, more powerful rockets, and I can sort of see signs that this might be the agreement the United States will push. Everyone stops fighting, even though Hamas still has a huge arsenal of rockets, and that is a solution that I don't think the Israelis want to accept.
Yeah, and not to mention the network of tunnels that will still remain.
Right.
It's going to be very, very interesting. All right, now we have to talk about the other issue at hand. And guys, let me know when the General is back.
I'm back, Steve.
Let's Fred, the president waiting for the investigation, and that's what he's focusing on. He wants Putin to cooperate with the investigation, but you heard the congressman earlier in the show say we're focusing too much on the investigation and playing Putin's game here.
I mean, we know what happened here. A missile, an anti-aircraft missile, was shot from Ukrainian territory. This missile was given to Ukrainian separates by the Russians, and the Ukrainian separates have been encouraged to engage in unrest, to destabilize Ukraine by Vladimir Putin. Putin blamed the Ukrainian government right after the Malaysian jet was shot.
I'm back on.
So offensive.
Okay, General, stay where you are. When we come back, we'll have you respond as we shifted gears in your absence here. Just briefly, we just started on the situation with Russia, and we'll come back with both gentlemen, Paul Vallely and Fred Fleitz, on part 2 of the Malzberg panel. Don't go away.